Hello and welcome. I'm the Coastering Kid. Today I want to talk about my trip to Guangzhou, China, visiting Chimelong Paradise and Sunat Land. And I'll tell you, Sunat Land is one of the furthest out places I've been to in the entire world because it doesn't seem like too many other people go here. But there is something that brought me out there. But first, I'll talk about Chimelong Paradise because I visited there first. Chimelong Paradise is a short metro ride away from the South Station of Guangzhou that I got there on the high-speed train from Hong Kong, where I was studying abroad. It is one of the larger theme parks in China. They are home to multiple roller coasters that you would see back in the States. So they have a B&M dive coaster, and this is just the fifth dive coaster ever built back in 2008. And they have a Skyrocket 2, a motorbike roller coaster, and a 10 inversion roller coaster, a half pipe, and some titty coasters. So they have 6 roller coasters in total, but they have tons more flat rides too. They have some really cool looking flat rides like a drop tower and whatever the hell this thing is. It looked awesome. I wish I could have rode it. But when I got here, I immediately hopped right onto the dive coaster, and it's a good one. I think it's better than Griffin. I think it's kind of hard to compare these things, but dive coasters aren't quite my favorite. But I think it's like behind Sheikra, ahead of Griffin, ahead of Valraven. I'm not a big fan of Valraven. I think that the restraints made a difference. I feel like the older dive coasters just go through the elements a bit tighter, and you feel a bit more force in them. But the drop is really what is the draw on these things. And, the drop here is as good as any dive coaster. I love that 90-degree drop for a long period of time. And I'm calling it dive coaster because that's the name. I even put in Google Translate. That just translates to vertical roller coaster. China's names and roller coasters aren't really the best. I'm looking at you, Jungle Flying Squirrel, whatever it is. But this was just a very solid coaster. It is almost 200 feet tall. But I especially love this awesome shot I got of the plane going right over the roller coaster. It's probably one of the coolest shots of a roller coaster. And it also has that splashdown element seen on Sheikra and Griffin. So it really just felt like Sheikra. Like they're the same ride, and same with the Skyrocket 2. It is another Skyrocket 2. I love these things, but it's a direct clone, so it's not going to bring you out to Guangzhou to ride this thing. Roller coaster I was most anticipating here was the 10 inversion roller coaster, and I have not been on one of these clones. They're not the most common thing, but one that you're probably familiar with is Colossus at Thorpe Park. That is something I've wanted to go on for a long time, just because it has these crazy clickbaity shots. This is the same ride, just different location, and it might be better even because I haven't heard the best things about Colossus, but this ride was also not the best. It was a bit rough, and there isn't too much exciting stuff going on, but if you're looking for a roller coaster that wants to turn you upside down 10 times, that's pretty much exactly what this roller coaster is. It is a ride that turns you upside down 10 times, and the highlight of it is that massive for what are they called, barrel wars, hardline wars. It's so much fun, and it's even more fun to look at either from the side or looking right down the muzzle. It's a fun element. It's not Intamin's best work. It's not the most intense ride, but it is like a clickbait roller coaster. 10 inversions, sign me up. Even if it has been outdone with like Smiler, 10 inversions is 2 more than I have ever done previously, so it has that going for it. But also a fun ride here was the motorbike roller coaster. I love these rides, and this is only the second motorbike roller coaster I've ever done. I'd love to do something like Hadwid's, that was awesome, but this had some good airtime on a motorbike roller coaster, and the rest of the ride was pretty tame besides that first during the launch. But I think it's fun. I think we should see more of these around because it's a very good family coaster. It gives a unique experience when you're actually riding on these things. If you haven't been on one, then I recommend trying it because it really is a different feeling. Just the different posture you're in, it feels like you're riding a motorbike and like you're really controlling the ride. But those are all the rides I went on. And by the way, it was pretty empty at the start, but it was a Halloween night. I did one of the mazes here, which was pretty good. Same sort of thing that you expect in a Six Flags or Cedar Fair, but I got a few jorts. I was behind this couple and they asked me to go ahead of them because they got so scared. Just like in the Halloween night at an American park back home. It filled up very fast once the mazes started. I'll just show some pictures here, which is like the line for the dive coaster was a station wait in the morning, but then in the evening it was way out the queue. And so by like 5 o'clock, I was out of there after just riding 3 roller coasters and a few flat rides. But I immediately headed to one of the main things that drew me to Guangzhou, the Canton Tower. It is the 4th tallest freestanding structure in the world. It is almost 2,000 feet tall. And at the top of it is a drop tower. So I rode the highest thrill ride in the entire planet. So that was something I didn't even know was at the top there, but the view up there was absolutely stunning. And I just recommend a trip to Guangzhou just to see this thing. Honestly, the skyline in Guangzhou is underrated, but that's beside the point, because the next morning I was out to Sunotland, and if you never heard of this place, well, it is home to one of the fanciest, newest, most advanced, insane roller coasters on the planet, Dueling Dragons, and not the one from Harry Potter World. It is the newest one from Intamin that is a dueling coaster with 3 launches, and one side is sit down and one side is inverted. Unfortunately, the inverted side was open when I was there and the standing side was closed, so that was unfortunate. But I had an interesting experience staying here because it is an hour metro ride outside of the city, and then it is a hop on some guy's motorbike and ride there. And then when you're approaching this thing, you first see this massive mall complex with an indoor skiing rink. And you hear these stories about Chinese construction, and that applies to amusement parks, and it also applies to things like this, with this, they're trying to build some sort of resort here, and they have this insane hotel behind that thing. It's insane, and the park is also insane, but it is empty as hell. It is the emptiest, most ghost-ridden place I've ever been to. But when I arrived there, I thought I forgot to go to the ATM beforehand, so I was looking the ride I was going on to up there. I was trying to find money. I didn't have any money. There was no ATMs working there, and you have to have WeChat Pay, and it's all China. So I couldn't pay to get into the park. So I was out there for 2 hours trying to figure out how to get into this park, how to pay for tickets. I was like, I'll pay tomorrow. I'll pay for a ticket tomorrow so I can go in today. Can I do that? And they're like, no, you can do that. It was a long story, but after 2 hours, they just gave me a free ticket and I was in. And the site that met me was this empty, barren place, but the roller coaster didn't open for 2 hours anyway, so I would have been stuck inside an empty place with nothing to do anyway. So I just went in, rode the roller coaster 3 times. Twice was by myself, one was with one other person. It is a barren landscape. The only other groups there were just these tiny groups of elementary school children. They were surprised to see me there, a white guy walking around an amusement park for children, I guess, even though they have this massive roller coaster that is insane. Even though I just got to do the inverted side, it's incredible, okay? It is the best inverted coaster I've ever been on. I've been on Montu, Alpendice, Banshee. This thing, it hits the butt. I think it's awesome. The Morchi launches are very strong. You start with a forward launch, and then you go into a backward launch and go up a spike, and same thing that you're going to see on Pantheon in Busch Gardens Dueling Sport, except with the fancy switch track. Then you launch forward and into this loop that is like 4th throttle, but the tracks aren't entangled with each other. It still is a crazy looking element, and I'm sure it's even crazier looking with both trains going. And I'm sorry because this thing only really ran when I was on it, so I don't have any footage of this coaster, so you're probably just going to see a few clips playing over and over again of this ride, or the photos I took, because from the little bit of footage I have, you can tell it's insane. It flies through its elements, and it is one of the most forceful rides I've ever been on. There are some very strong positive G's and moments of airtime, and the restraints on this ride aren't too restrictive, so you do feel the airtime. It's an overhead bar, but the only thing you feel is the lap bar. There's nothing resting on your shoulders, so you feel that airtime. So this coaster, it gets 9 out of 10 for me. The only thing I would have liked it for it to just be a bit longer. It's a pretty short ride, and if it was dueling, maybe it would go up to a 10 out of 10. I haven't really had a good experience on a dueling roller coaster yet. I only think I've done Lightning Racer, so I was kind of missing out on that. The sitting train, its station is right above the inverted part. The train was on the tracks, but they were saying no, it's under maintenance. They are nice enough. Everyone in China is very nice. People outside the gate, they're very nice for allowing me to just go in the park for free. So I tried to spend the little bit of money I have. So I recommend you go to this place. If that's one thing I can do, is to recommend you come here. But I doubt many of you will. But this is a roller coaster that There's something worth flying to go visit. This is pretty good. It might be top 10 for me. I think it's an amazing roller coaster. The few other rides that they have there, it seemed to be kind of closed, even though the park is magnificent with great theming, and it's a nice park. It's just hard to say what it is because there's no one there. It's kind of hard to see what the appeal of it is when there's no one to appeal. But I did ride the other roller coaster that they have, and it was pretty impressive, even though it was a children's roller coaster. But there's a lot of good theming to it, and it's hard to really say what it was because, I don't speak Chinese. So it was themed to bees. I don't know what the bees were saying. But hey, Land, what a weird place, but what a good roller coaster. Chimelong gave a North American theme park feel, but then Land, it just gave a what is going on here feeling, like kind of creepy, but inspiring, I guess, that they built an amusement park out here. Like, you hear that China has an inflated economy with all the construction, and it's very evident here. There's not much reason for this place to be built, but the thing is, it does exist, and I was able to get a good ride out of this park, and I hope that Pantheon will meet those expectations that are set by Dueling Dragons for me now. But that does it for my thoughts on my trip to Guangzhou. See you next time.